Hello, Merry Meet. So I want to review a book. The book I want to review is Llewellyn's 2017's Witch's Companion. An almanac for contemporary living. It is not an almanac. I say this every time and it bears repeating. These are not almanacs. They are like collections of articles, basically. You can see this book as a magazine. There are a collection of articles and it comes out once a year. But it is in a book format instead of being in an A4 floppy magazine format. So yeah, an almanac is something that you use as a day planner. This is a magazine, basically. So yeah, first of all, let me say I love the cards down here. That's such a cute little detail. The covers of these are often good. But let's see what articles are in here. And like with all magazines, it's a variety pack. So not all articles. You are going to be extremely lucky if you are going to find one where all the articles are relevant for you and all the articles are good. But let's have a look-see, shall we? And this is by various authors. Basically what Llewellyn does is they take a bunch of their popular authors and they have them write an article for these books here that comes out once a year. So, we have Community Forum. That is just one of the sections here. We have Melanie Marquise. Save the Witch, putting an end to witchcraft persecution around the world. It is a very interesting article because we think that the witch hunts, that they are over and done with. That shit, that's gone, that's done. But it isn't. It's done here in the West. However, if we go to a lot of places in Africa, a lot of Muslim countries, there are, and Israel actually, there are laws against witchcraft. Granted, in Israel, it's not a law that is practiced to any great extent anymore. But for example, in Saudi Arabia, they have their own police force whose job it is to hunt down witches, and people are executed. In Africa, so many kids are killed, kids and adults, accused of witches. So the burning times are still going on, and this puts a light on that. Then you have Kerry Connor, Living Pagan at Work. It's an interesting article because sometimes it can be, it's both advice on, work-related things when it comes to paganism, but also how to deal with having an alternative religion in a work environment. Then we have Autumn Damiana. I am not completely sure how her name is to be pronounced. Pagans and Mental Illness. I love that one because I'm a pagan with mental illness. It's a pretty good article. And then we have Reverend J. Variable XÖ. Interesting name. Advice for the advisors. Tips for the aspiring psychic. Interesting article. Then we have Charlie Rainbow Wolf. Dark aspects of bright siding. It wasn't the article that I liked the most, but yeah, sure. And we have one from Lupa, and Lupa is one of my favorite authors, especially for these type of articles. And she has, "Are pagans required to be environmentalists?" It's such an interesting article. And what I like about Lupa's articles very often is that she doesn't come out with it's this way. This way is the absolute, complete truth. She discusses it. It's not like she's saying, it has to be this way. So yeah, I love her. Love her article. And then we have Jane Meredith, the Dark Goddess as Initiator, Reading into Fairy Tale and Myth, which is a pretty good article. Then we have Witchy Living, Day-to-Day Witchcraft, which is my favorite section because I believe that if an occult path is really going to be useful to you. It has to be lived. One thing is that 2-hour ritual you do in when the stars are right. It can be awesome. But you have to build up a practice. And practice a build-up of all of those little 1-minute rituals that you do all through the day. It's about living witchcraft. And what we have here, we have Emily Carlin, Magic and Communication Skills. Yeah, not so good about that one. The article is good, but I need some of those advice because, yeah. Then we have, and it's basically about how to express exactly what you want. How to basically narrow a spell down so that you ask for it exactly what you want, because magic will always take the path of least resistance, so that if you say, I so want a raise, or rather if you say, I so want a better paying job, and then you get a job, so you have to move office and pick up your life and move it to a completely different city where you do get better pay, but you didn't want to move it. You got exactly what you asked for, but you didn't get what you want. If you rather than ask for a raise, that's another thing. So yeah. And then we have Tess Whitehurst. Good vibe, badass, positive strategies for dealing with challenging people and situation. Yeah, a little bit too hippie for me, but sure, it's not that bad. Lexa Oleg, scent and sentiment, diffuse the healing properties of your favorite scent. Quite interesting. So yeah. Stephanie Woodfield, speaking with the gods, omens in the modern world. I really love this one because we often forget that we live in a different world than people did 300 years ago, where all of these, basically in the times where all of these legends of what the different omens say and do are, we live in a different world, so we need different ways to look for these omens. Then we have Cassius Sparrow, the witchy household. Always good. Always good. I really like me some articles and books about how to witchify your house. Then we have Carolyn Wall's Magical Reboot, which is basically about how to handle a crisis of fate and how to basically say, okay, fuck this, I'm starting over. Then we have Witchcraft Essentials, Practices, Rituals, and Spells. We have Peg Alloy, Music for Ritual and Magic. Okay article, but I don't use a lot of... It's not an article that's very suited for me. Like I said, all basically things, magazines and books that are just a selection of articles. You will have somebody that's... Some of them are very applicable to you, some of them not so much. And this one not so much because I can't concentrate usually when I have music on. For meditation, yes. For ritual work, not so much. Then we have James Campbell's Circle Games, which is quite interesting because you notice that a lot of church meeting you have a bit of fun and games and such. With at church, it's sort of add levity to the situation, makes the congregation come together. Basically the same thing, but for meetings of pagan covens. Then you have Elizabeth Barrett, creating your own coven website, which has some useful advice. Then you have Monica Crossan, Under a Blood Moon, a family ritual, which basically is a moon ritual where you can include the kids. It's also not very relevant for me because I don't have children. Raven Digitalis, the place of thoughts and emotions in witchcraft, which is very good advice that I have a really problem following because if I don't really have that much control over my emotions. But it's some good advice. Michael Fury, seasonal frustrations, how to celebrate the Sabbath when the weather is challenging. Well, for me, I stay inside. It's very, very, very rarely I do an outdoor ritual. yeah, don't get me wrong, outdoor rituals are awesome. It's just I don't often have the time to talk somebody into driving me or taking the bus, getting myself into some secluded part of a forest and doing a ritual there when I think that a lot of people get stuck on that because I think that, oh, if you're gonna celebrate the Sabbats and Atzbats, you have to take the whole day for that. No, I do a 20-minute, half-hour ritual. And that works very nicely for me. And yeah, it's awesome if you have the time to go out into the woods. But for me, since I live in an urban area, that takes a lot of time and effort. And very often I just don't have an opportunity to do that. So I just do my rituals inside. But yeah. But there are some useful advice there if you want. We have Lisa McCherry working with the dark moon. Quite interesting because that's time of the month that is very often ignored, but which has a lot of powerful energy. Then you have Diana Rochelle. Sabbats out of season. What to do when you live where seasons do not shift, which is also quite interesting because there's a lot of areas where you don't have a strong separation of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. For example, I watch sometimes this YouTuber called Graveyard Girl, and she lives, I don't know exactly where in the United States, it's somewhere up south, I think. But then right there, you have a slightly colder season, and then you have a warm season. You don't have four of them, the way she describes it. So this basically gives advice what to do when you live like that. I don't have that issue, but for those that do, I think this will be a good article. Then we have magical transformations. Everything old is new again, which is the name of the chapter. You have Blake Octavian Blair. What to do when you are called upon. Which is basically, what do you do when somebody asks you for help? Whether it's spell work, advice, divination, how to respond to that. And that's very, very useful advice. Because when people hear that you're practicing magic, usually, sooner or later, somebody is going to ask you to help them. Then you have Linda Reddish, Children of the Reeds, Adventures in a Not So Imaginary Place, which is basically talks about her childhood, and it's okay, but it wasn't one of those that, one of the articles that really spoke to me. Then you have Deborah Castellano, Why You Need Your Muse, which also isn't one thing that inspired me so much. It's basically you need your great inspiration to get ahead with the great work. No. I don't see that I have to be divinely inspired to get somewhere. Then you have Tiffany Lysak, Opening Divine Dialogue, Personal Healing and the Ancient Ones. It's a pretty good article. Then you have Danu Forest, a witch often on the land, befriending the powers of place, which is quite interesting. Basically, each area have its own spirits, its own deities, and working with those deities that are naturally around your area can be extremely beneficial. Then we have Natalie Simon. What are you? A journey of a spiritual identity. It's basically how to find out what label within the pagan, occult, witchcraft, and so on, and community fits you. Interesting enough, if this is a problem for you. Then we have the last one here, which is Shauna Galvin, The Art of Letting Go, which is basically, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, article. And then you have the one tiny section that is relevant for this year, which have a lunar calendar and a calendar with holiday and new and full moons. So yeah, basically you have about 5-6 pages. I think that's what it is. You have the calendar, which is 12 pages. And then you have that. There. So 13 pages out of all of these are relevant for 2017. So why I'm mentioning that? It's because once we are no longer in 2016 and are getting out into the middle of 2017, this book is going to drop in price like a brick because it says almanac. So then people think, oh, well, it's not worth anything anymore because yes, 2017 is well on its way to being done. So yeah, fuck this book. But here's the thing, that's when you can pick this up. Yes, I know I shouldn't be the one to preach because I have bought it full price now and I get them when they come out every year. But if you're smarter than me, you wait a few months and you pick these up in the bargain bin, and basically all of the articles I mentioned there, you then get that for an extremely reasonable price. I've seen these for under $1 once the year they are for have come and gone. And like I said, it's only that calendar in the back which is relevant for 2017 only. All the articles are relevant at any year. So yeah, I also like all these illustrations that you see all through the book. Some big, some small. That just makes the book very, very pretty. Love this one. And it's a good book. That doesn't mean I love all the articles in it, but I really like most of the articles, and even the ones that I'm not so fond of is well written. These are very established pagan authors that have written these, and it's just a lot of great advice for living a good pagan life, for all the little things that can make your life better as a pagan. So I definitely recommend this book. I'll give it 9 out of 10. And yeah, you might like other articles than me, and not all of the articles are relevant for you. So it's always that way, but there's some really good articles in here, and I think that you will like it, especially if you get it at the end of 2017 or later, so you can get it from a bargain bin, because then you get a lot of good pagan literature for very little money, and we like that. So yeah, that is my review of Llewellyn's 2017 Witch's Companion, an almanac for contemporary living that isn't an almanac. And it's of course published by Llewellyn by various authors. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.